Welcome to Interviewing People, where we will talk to a variety of people with a focus on how they ended up where they are today, what they learned from their mistakes, and what advice they have for our futures. Enjoy the show. All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Interviewing People, where we're going to today talk to two Van Buren graduates. They both graduated in 2017, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. And they are going to talk to us a little bit about their lives after high school, what's going on in college, what they're looking ahead to after college, so forth. And those two people are Tori Bookwalter and McClain Brown. So, Tori, we're going to go ahead and start with you. And I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about where you go to college, what your major is, what your plans are after college, so forth.
Okay, so I go to Penn State. I've wanted to go here since I was 7, so getting in was a really big victory for me. I'm obviously a senior majoring in broadcast journalism. My plans after college are a little, I don't necessarily know what path I want to take yet. Because obviously I started out wanting to be in front of the camera, but I've recently gotten to some PR things and I really like doing that as well. So I guess we'll just have to see. So we'll figure it out one day, hopefully.
Okay. McClain, what about you?
So I'm a senior at Miami University, and I'm majoring in mechanical engineering, minoring in electrical engineering. And just probably about a week ago, I signed for a full-time position with Amazon Web Services. So.
Very cool. Okay, we're going to talk about Amazon here in a little bit because I know you had an internship with them last year and so forth. So one of the big things a lot of students are concerned with is the idea of cost. And I was looking at costs for both schools. Penn State, obviously, Tori, with you being out of state, that doesn't quite double the cost, but it comes pretty close to that. Miami is a state university, but still, I guess for 2021 incoming freshmen costs a little over $16,000. And I guess it's cool how once you go in at a certain rate, that is your tuition rate for the rest of your college career, which is nice that that's not going to go up. But that doesn't include room and board, things like that. So we don't need you to necessarily talk about costs as far as, how bad it is or how good it is, whatever, but just any advice you would have for students about handling the costs of college and trying to make it something that's reasonable so that they don't leave college with a ton of debt and so forth. So, McClain, since you're already up here, why don't you go ahead and start with that one?
Absolutely. So as far as costs go, the recommendations that I would give is, first off, it's on an individual basis. So some people, their parents will help them out. Some people, they won't. It just kind of depends. And it's something that ask those questions now so that you're prepared once you get those offers as far as, tuition, and there'll be scholarship packages. The other thing that you need to start thinking about now is if you want to work, or for myself, it was more so devoting my my time and efforts towards my schoolwork, which paid off for me. I got a pretty good package from Miami, and then also outside scholarships from different localities. There's different, like the Community Foundation has several scholarships that you can apply for. One of the things I wish I had done is started working in the summers earlier. And then as far as once you get to college, again, I'm kind of devoting myself to my studies during the semesters. But in the summers, I highly recommend going out, getting internships and co-ops. And it's all about kind of seeking those opportunities yourself. So.
All right, Tori, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I didn't get any scholarships, so I came in and I was saving up a lot of money because obviously going to an out-of-state school, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than going somewhere in-state. So I worked during the summers just like McClain did. But during school, it's kind of hard to get a job just because you're trying to balance, your social life, your schoolwork all at once. But I know a lot of people who do get jobs and do just fine. So I think it's just all about time management, seeing if you can handle doing school and working all at the same time. But definitely working during the summers is going to be really important when you want to save up.
Okay, good. So what was it that, I know you said earlier, I should have asked earlier, you said you would always dreamed of going to Penn State. What was it about Penn State that did that?
Well, it's kind of I'll try to keep my story short. I know McClain knows all about this story. So I started becoming a Penn State fan. I saw Joe Paterno on the screen, and I just thought he was the cutest thing ever. I was like 7 years old, and I just thought he was the cutest old man. Flash forward a couple years later, it was team day when we were in middle school, so I dressed up in like head to toe all Penn State stuff. And my mom took a picture of me and sent it to Joe Paterno because she's creepy like that. She knows, you can find just about anything you want to, like nowadays. But so she sent him a handwritten note with my picture attached. And a couple weeks later, I got a note in the mail that read from the desk of Joe Paterno, and it was a handwritten note from him. And it was like, thanks for being an Nittany Lion. Thanks for, supporting us, stuff like that. And I didn't believe it. I thought my mom did it herself. So I looked up the handwriting and it matched. So
Wow.
I just kind of felt like I was a part of the community before I even got here. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's a really great story. I'd never heard that. So very cool. So, getting a job, obviously important for both of you said that. McClain, you talked a little bit about scholarships. How many of those would you estimate you applied for? And I'm sure your mom was really pushing those and so forth. But if you could just give us an estimated number of how many scholarship applications you completed.
So I had an entire spreadsheet going on my senior year of all the applications, their deadlines, my status on them, all sorts of stuff. And I think I ended up submitting probably about like 30 to 50 applications. I don't quite remember, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Okay.
But in the end, it definitely paid off.
How many of those would you say you ended up getting something from?
Probably like 5 to 10, maybe.
Okay. So yeah, I guess the point, I think a lot of times students think, well, if I apply, I'm going to get every one. And well, no, that's probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But if you apply for enough, I'm guessing you'll probably get some. And obviously anything is good when it comes to scholarships. So yeah, I know one of the biggest mistakes I ever made as a high school student is I applied for 0 scholarships when I was a high school senior. And that was a horrible mistake on my part. And I hope no one else makes that mistake again. So, okay, so good. Getting jobs, applying for scholarships, definitely important.
And all right, I always think about it this way. So like it maybe takes me an hour to apply to a scholarship, and usually they're at the minimum like $500. So if you can find a job where you make $500 an hour in high school, go ahead and do that job, but otherwise apply to those scholarships.
Bingo. And I'm glad you also said that, the idea that you don't have to come up with a completely new application for every scholarship. You could probably reuse a lot of your essays and things like that. So yeah, $500 an hour, that is definitely the job to have. So good. All right. So I've been following both of you on LinkedIn and been really impressed to see all of the different experiences you have been having. So McClain, I think we're going to start with you again. So you've had internship experiences at Cooper Tire, General Electric, Marathon, and Amazon. So I'd love to hear about what you've learned from those experiences. What was it like to get those experiences, so forth?
So actually it kind of picks up where we just left off with the scholarships. One of the scholarships I received, because my father worked at Cooper Tire, was only an employee's son or daughter can get it. And I received a scholarship from Cooper Tire. So I had the email of somebody who was working in their HR department. And I knew that they hired students in the summer and whatnot. And it was actually before I even had any of my engineering classes, I reached out and I said, hey, I'm going to be back over Miami's J term. So the entire month of January, there's no classes. And I said, I would love to, can I help out an apprenticeship, just do something, get something on my resume. And it worked out. So for the month of January, I was helping them for kind of like internal like software development. And then from there, it was kind of like a domino effect. The Cooper Tire kind of led into the GE Aviation, GE to Marathon, and then ultimately to Amazon, where I accepted my full-time offer. And really what I'm going to tell you is most of the time from these experiences, you're going to learn more so business acumen than what you learn in class. So like in class, you know, they're going to give you PowerPoints and, you know, this is, I don't know, whatever your major is. So for me, it'd be like force calculations and all that kind of stuff. And that's not really what you're going to see in industry. So in industry, it's going to be more so of general practices for whatever your major is or whatever you're trying to do. So it's a little bit different than the classroom. Actually, I'd say a lot of it different. And you're more learning how to work together as a team. And or at least that's what my experience has been.
So the General Electric, you said aviation, was that down in Cincinnati?
So I thought when I applied for that, that's probably where I'd be placed. However, I was placed in Auburn, Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that summer, I spent the summer down in Auburn, Alabama. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Now, did they pay for you to live down there? Did you have to pay for that yourself? How did that work?
So there was with all my internships, actually, I've gotten some sort of a housing stipend. And then it's kind of been my responsibility to go out and seek housing. And then obviously I can spend more than the stipend or less, and however it works out. And with that one, I actually stayed in my fraternity house down on Auburn's campus. So it was kind of interesting. So I'm a Delta Chi at Miami University, and I stayed at the Delta Chi house down in Auburn, Alabama.
Okay. Very interesting. Now, at Amazon, I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you connected 6% of non-billing prospect customers with Amazon tech partners. That was the highest conversion rate of the 147 sales interns. So I guess, what do you feel like you did to set yourself apart from all of those other interns?
So Amazon, it's interesting. They've got leadership principles that they always quote, and one of them is customer obsession. And so more so than trying to sell to anybody, what I was doing was trying to get to know their business a little bit better. And so I'd just be having a conversation with them, you know, not saying, oh, Amazon can offer you this, X, Y, and Z, but more so, oh, what's going on? What are the issues that you're facing, that kind of stuff. And I found that really helped with that. And also one of the things that I wanted to kind of express in this little interview session or whatever, so I'm actually doing sales with Amazon. So completely outside of the context, you know, mechanical or even electrical engineering, my minor or my major. And that was one of the things, like, don't let your major limit you. That was one of the things I wanted to say. And so.
Okay, good. Now, Amazon, was that in Columbus?
So I was going to be in Seattle, but this was through the pandemic. So my full-time offer is in Seattle. So I'm currently looking for housing and stuff there, but we were work from home. So I did work in like a WeWork location. I don't know if you're familiar, in Columbus. They rent out desks. So it's like a huge office space, and then you rent a desk. So still kind of in a corporate environment type deal.
Right.
A lot of startups do it, but.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So Tori, you've been working with the men's swimming and diving teams at Penn State. You had an internship with Must Love Sports, and I believe you're still currently in your internship with Bluewire podcast. So tell us about those experiences, what you've learned, what you've been able to see, so forth.
I would definitely agree with McClain when he said that just because you're majoring in one thing doesn't mean that you can only find internships within that field, because I'm a broadcast major, but all of my internships thus far have been with public relations. So definitely don't limit yourself just because of what you're majoring in. But I would also piggyback off of him, where when you get that first internship, it kind of piggybacks like off of one another. It's kind of a domino effect. So when you have something to show for what you work and like your work ethic, it's a lot easier to apply that when interviewing and getting other ones, because you can bring in those skills and those experiences and get, you know, different ones in different fields. So, yeah.
So what exactly, I think you're in charge of social media for the swimming and diving team there at Penn State. How did you end up with that position? What does that mean? So forth.
So I'm the sports information director for the men's swimming and diving team on campus, which means besides our athletic director, Sandy Barber, I'm the highest person in the athletic department for the sport. I got that position because I applied for, so there's like tiers to some of these internships. So I applied for a bottom tier internship, and it kind of just led to one another, but this position that I have now, it became open, and they started interviewing within, and they said that they heard good things about my work ethic. And so they interviewed me for the position, and I ended up getting it just because of, like how I worked in my other ones.
Okay. So
Yeah.
do you travel with them, or?
Yeah, I do travel with them, but they haven't had any meets yet just because of all the pandemic things going on. But last year I did travel with them to Big Tens and a few other smaller competitions around here. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So Must Love Sports, what exactly do they do, and where did you go for that?
So that wasn't really an internship. It was more of a mentorship. So all summer we would get in these little groups, and we would get to meet people like the president of the Chargers and the GM of the Panthers and the president of NASCAR. So that was a really good networking experience for me, because that's what led to my new internship with this podcast company. So something I would say definitely off that, if you get the chance to network with people, you really need to take that relationship seriously, because you don't know who someone knows or what they could lead you to. So that was a really big step for me in getting my new internship that I have now.
And what exactly are you doing with Bluewire as an intern?
So I do a little bit of social media. I run the TikTok account because no one in their company thus far knows how to do TikTok. So I was kind of tasked with that job. I'm doing all right. I've had a couple viral ones, so go check it out.
Okay.
But I write editorial content for them. So anything that has like the latest sports news, anything that's going on in the world of sports, I write an article about that, and I tie it back to our podcasters, because we have 140 on the network. So I just kind of, go through, see what's interesting of the day, and then I write an article every day for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing that all remotely, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so everything, both in the athletics department and for Bluewire, it's all remote, because obviously it's going to be pretty hard to travel right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if we weren't going through COVID, would you have been doing some of the Bluewire on site, or would that have been remote regardless?
So Bluewire is a startup. So they just started in February, and it's rapidly growing. So it's always been a remote company. So that wouldn't be something I would travel for. No.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So both of you have talked about networking. McClain talked about how knowing some people at Cooper got him then in there. And you obviously said We Love Sports got you then into Bluewire. So, I'd love to hear, Tori, we'll start with you. Your experience with LinkedIn and using that, and what other social media platforms are you currently using, and just how those have helped you build relationships with other people that have then led to other experiences?
Yeah, so for my mentorship, when we would meet with these people with Must Love Sports, I would always reach out to them either before or after they met with us, just introducing myself, saying that I really appreciated them coming and speaking with us. And then that actually was what led to my Bluewire internship, because I was talking with the CEO of this company, and I was just kind of telling him about my experiences. He used to work for the Browns, so I had to reach out about that. And he goes, we have this open internship, and I think that you would be great. I think you should apply. And that's how I got that. So I would say just don't be afraid to reach out to these people on any platform. I usually do it on LinkedIn just because it feels like a more professional setting. But never be afraid to reach out, because the worst that people can say is, hey, thanks, but I don't really have anything for you right now. And there you go. You've already made that connection. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. McClain, what has your experience been?
Very, very similar. I'll have to say one of my biggest pieces of advice with networking would be, don't be afraid. I think a lot of people are kind of timid, or they don't really want to reach out. But the thing is, I think it's just a general piece of, human beings. People want to help. So if you reach out and if you can make just that one little connection, so whether they're a Miami alum, a Penn State alum, or whether they're a Cleveland Browns fan, and you know that, like literally if you were to get that message in your inbox and you're like, hey, listen, I'm also a huge fan, and I'm curious what could I be doing at, that company and whatnot. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to leave you on red. And even if they do, send out, five messages. I'm sure somebody's going to reply. And one of the big things, especially being in Findlay, Ohio, that I'll recommend, and one of the reasons why I probably got into marathon, I mean, there's a huge company and there's a couple of them too, Cooper Tire as well. And I don't know if they're Fortune 500, but I know that they were, and they're close to it at this point in time. And those are both companies that are hiring, I think, almost any major that you could possibly be. So like, don't be afraid if it's your neighbor, if it's your friend, if it's a friend of a friend, don't be afraid to like have a professional conversation and kind of share your interest and what opportunities might lie in those companies. And, if that's like, if you would have started out with marathon, who knows what you could be doing now. So.
Right. Okay, good. So, one thing that we're talking about in our classes is talking about personal branding. And I'm trying to reinforce to students that they have control of their future, depending on what they are creating, what they're making people outside the school aware of, what skills they have that they can show to other people, so forth. And I guess I'd like to know, I don't know, I guess, Tori, you talked a little bit about writing those articles every day. Obviously, that's creating. Are there any other ways that you guys are creating, and whether it's content or whatever, and do you ever really think about personal branding and making sure that people are seeing what you're doing and so forth? But McClain, we'll let you go ahead and start with this one.
All right. So yeah, I have the LinkedIn app. I'm probably a nerd. You can call me what you want, but it's worked out for me, probably in my benefit. I absolutely, you just kind of just keep people updated. You'd be surprised how many people will reach out, and they'll either, on the other side of the spectrum, they'll be like, hey, I'm interested in this. How would you you work at Amazon, yada, yada, yada. Like what steps would you recommend doing? And then it'll be the other side of the spectrum too. And it'll be people who are, hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile and I'm interested in kind of things of that nature. And, I've accepted my full-time position and everything like that. And I probably will go the whole Amazon Web Services route. But it's always good to have options on the table, especially with what we've seen this pandemic season and everything like that. Things are being canceled. So if for some reason, with Amazon Web Services, if things would be canceled, I have my LinkedIn mail that I can go through, and people have been reaching out. So that's always comforting. And it's the little things too. Like I know I just got certified through something on Amazon Web Services. Like they have certifications that you can get. And there's been 2 or 3 people who have reached out and have said, hey, I saw that you're certified through this. So it's not even like, oh, make sure that you have your school, Miami, and then that your internship's on there. But it's the little things. I know I have my pilot's license on there, and that was actually a big topic when I was applying to be an intern with Amazon. So.
Okay, good. Tori, what have you done with branding? And you really thought about that much? Have you done things beyond creating your articles, so forth?
I mean, I do a lot with, social media just because of both my internships, so it kind of comes to the territory. So I'm constantly trying to come up with new ideas on, what can we post to get feedback from and what will the people respond to. But I think something that's really important with personal branding is you really have to be careful with what you post on your personal platforms and be really cognizant of who's going to see that. Because when you go to apply to jobs, that they're going to stalk all of your pages to see, how you are when you're not in a professional setting. So just be really wary of what you're putting out there because it's never going to go away. You can always find what people have been posting. So that would be my advice when it comes to personal branding.
Okay, good. And I'm sure you'll be our favorite speaker so far because you brought up TikTok, and I know everyone loves that. So.
Heck yeah, brownie points.
All right, last question that I want to end with, and I'll have each of you answer is, what is something that you now know about careers that you wish someone had told you in high school? And either one of you can start.
I'll go. I would say the biggest thing I have learned, just not even just with careers, just in general, is you really can't be afraid to put yourself out there in any situation because you don't know what's going to come of it. If I hadn't put myself out there and if McClain hadn't put himself out there in all of these different scenarios, we wouldn't have the opportunities that we have that could possibly lead us to this fantastic career. So I would just don't be timid when you're doing anything in the professional setting. I mean, obviously don't harass these people to get a response, but but it's not a bad thing to be putting yourself out there and just building your network. So
all right, McClain, what do you think? What do you wish someone would have told you about careers in high school that you can tell my students now who are still in high school?
Absolutely. So first off, I'll ask, is this the class where you do the job shadow?
Well, in a perfect world, yes, but with COVID this year, yeah, we're not going to be doing that. But so
Okay.
That's why I'm trying to get a bunch of speakers and so
Okay.
forth.
Absolutely. So one of the things is that I would say is it starts now. That job shadow experience was seriously one of the best that I've ever had. One of the best experiences to date. I know I spent mine and I went to a marathon and I shadowed a whole bunch of people. I was strong in math and science, and when that happens, everybody says go engineering, go engineering. And I'm kind of one of those people who likes to be unique. And but at the end of the day, I ended up in engineering. So, but it was absolutely because of that experience, you know. So what I would say is, you know, this summer when things start to go back to normal, you use what Tori and I have said. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be part of a class. Go reach out to some of your connections. Say, hey, I'm interested in what you do. Do you mind if I, you know, follow you around for a day? And I think you're gonna like what comes of it. And I absolutely hope you all do it because that's one of the reasons why I got into marathon anyway, because I shadowed like I think 7 people that day, and some of those people were the people who helped me get in. So
Awesome. Well, Tori and McClain, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you joining us, especially as Van Buren graduates. It's great to see Van Buren students doing well out in the world and finding success. And I hope that as you continue through the rest of your senior year, everything starts to fall in line. McClain, sounds like you're right there already. I hope you find a house in Seattle. And Tori, I'm definitely jealous of you getting to work with the athletic department and all the cool podcasts. I've been on the Bluewire website and seen all the different athletes that have podcasts on there and everything else, and looks really, really interesting. So I'm a little bit jealous of both of you, but good luck with everything you're going to be doing in the future. And I hope that everything continues to go well and we get through COVID and everything's good. So thank you again very, very much. I appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.